Hello, hello. Buenos dias, buenas noches. We are going to try this again. Let me make sure that my headphones are connected. As earlier today, it was a mess after like half an hour. Nothing was working. So let me make sure my AirPods are connected. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is going to be our second attempt at discussing everything you need to know as a homeschool parent, a working homeschool parent. So I'm really excited for that because I've been a homeschool parent for many, many years. I've been an entrepreneur and homeschool parent for many years. And there's a lot of things that I wish I had known at the beginning that no one told me. I guess because, let me take these out. No one told me, I guess, because it just isn't something that's discussed, especially in the Latin community. It's seen as something that's kind of arbitrary or non-conservative or whatever it is you want to call it. It's just not the norm. Okay. So the way that we're going to be structuring today is going to be in a couple ways. So we're going to talk about scheduling as a working mom. We're going to discuss choosing your curriculums. How do you choose your curriculums? What are things that you have to consider? We're going to talk about socialization, screen time, educating different ages. And then I'm going to be sharing with you my top resources and more. If you are a mom that is juggling motherhood and business, I highly recommend that you book the upcoming Las Vegas retreat. It's happening December the 6th through the 8th. It is for moms just like you that are highly ambitious, because if you are a homeschool mom, you are an ambitious woman. You are an ambitious woman. This takes grit. It takes consistency. It takes discipline. And most importantly, it takes deep purpose and knowing that this is exactly what your family needs in order for you to be the best that it can be, to raise the best children that you can raise as little humans. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. The information for the Mother Not a Martyr at Las Vegas retreat will be down below in the description box, and you can learn more information about that. I have very, very limited seats available, but definitely for you if you are a mom that is in that juggle. Okay. So let's start by part one, which is going to be knowing your reasons for homeschooling in the first place. You have to be clear on your goals as a homeschool family. It is not enough for you to jump into homeschooling from a place of fear. I understand that given our social climate, there's a lot of things that are going on right now. Trust me when I say I get it. Whether it's the agendas that are being pushed out, whether it's all of, the things that are happening in our schooling. And I know this can be a trigger, so I'm not going to get too deep into it, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. Homeschooling from a place of fear is not what I would recommend. Okay. Homeschooling from a place of control is not what I would recommend, because what you're going to do is you're going to transmit that energy into your children, and you will be raising kids that are going to grow up with social anxiety, with fears over things that maybe they have never experienced, but because those are your fears, you have then transferred that energy into them. So you want to be very mindful from the space with which you are educating your children. Why are you in homeschool in the first place? Is it because you're a part of an industry that is very fast paced? Maybe your hours of working just do not coincide or do not work with the normal traditional schooling. Maybe you need a creative schedule. Maybe it's because there's values that you want to instill in your children that public, private, charter schools do not. Maybe it's the fact that you travel a lot, or that you want to just spend more time with your child. Maybe it's your child has a learning disability and you really want to be able to give them that one-on-one attention. Whatever your reason is, get clear on what is your goal with homeschooling. Why are you in this in the first place? Okay. Why I start this in the beginning is because this is going to be the deciding factor for a lot of the other decisions that you're going to be making throughout your homeschooling journey. Keeping in mind that you are going to need to be highly, highly flexible in a lot of these different areas that we're going to be discussing. So let's talk about scheduling as a working mom. Like I mentioned, you need to be clear on why it is you're doing this in the first place. You need to understand your child's optimal levels and optimal hours for learning. It's what's called your chronotypes. Your chronotype is going to tell you specifically what are your optimal levels for rest, what are your optimal levels for productivity. And your chronotype is something that you can use not just for homeschooling, but you could use it for yourself. You could use it for your team if you are a CEO and have a team under you. highly, highly beneficial because it's going to help you get more rest, be more efficient, be more productive. It's going to help you when you're homeschooling your children to understand, are they really 8 a.m. people, or will they retain more information in the evening? Really letting your child's biological clock guide you is going to allow you to be more efficient in your homeschool process, in your homeschool educating as a parent. So, regardless of what that looks like, take the time to understand what their biological clock is telling you. Why do I say that? Because while you may have a 9 to 5, and it can be really easy for you to say, I'm just going to wake them up at 7 a.m. and at 7 a.m. we're going to do all our homeschool. In those 2 hours that you may be homeschooling him, it may go in one ear and out the other, versus the 1 hour that you dedicate maybe at 9 o'clock at night to your child's education will be the things that sticks with him, because that is his optimal hour for learning. Okay, we want to work smarter, not harder, and we want to try and partner with our children, not treat homeschooling like it's some sort of dictatorship. Okay, partnering with your children is really going to enable this to be a enjoyable experience for all parties involved, because there's nothing worse than a child that shows up to homeschool and they're like, I don't want to do this. It's like pulling teeth. It's the worst. And yes, kids will have those days, but you don't want to have that year. Okay, it is not enjoyable, trust me. So let's jump into choosing your curriculums. Oh, before scheduling, I want to tell you that my particular scheduling type is not in the mornings. The way that I have structured our homeschooling is we do no screen time in the mornings, no tablets, no TV, even if it's a documentary. Everything that we do in the morning is going to be educational play or reading, just something to get their blood flowing, to get their creativity going, but nothing that's going to be screen heavy. They do that for maybe an hour. The rest of the day, we kind of just honestly chill. My daughter works on her business stuff. My boys just play. And the bulk of what we do when it comes to educating is going to be in the evenings. It's when my kids just are ready to learn, when they're excited to learn, when they have the most vigor. So I just took the time to really identify as we started our school year. Okay, are they night owl people? Are they morning people? My boys are not morning people at all. So we do the majority of our homeschooling in the evening. Again, knowing your child's chronotype is going to be key here as you begin to identify what schedule you want to place for them. All right, let's talk about curriculums, because I get this question, oh my gosh, all the time. I think most homeschool parents get this question the most, is what do I do about curriculums, especially now with there being so many options. When I started homeschooling my daughter, she's 11 now. We started when she was 2.5 because I needed to know that I could do this. So when we started homeschooling, there wasn't as many options. Now you could do virtual school, and there's so many programs, so many online classes that you could take live. There are all kinds of programs in your cities if you just look. So it can be overwhelming. And I'm going to try and make this as easy for you as possible. It goes right back to number one, what is your goal with homeschooling? But when it comes to curriculum, you really, really need to know, what are your needs? I love reviews as much as the next girl, but the thing that I most look at is this going to fit into our schedule? I don't want to have to completely turn our life for a curriculum. That is too much work. We're not doing that. Right now, I homeschool 3 out of 4 of my kids, and I need something that's on the go. I travel a lot. We're always constantly in and out of the house. We just have a lot of things going on, and I need a curriculum that's going to support our lifestyle, not a curriculum that requires for us to completely turn our lifestyle upside down to fit the curriculum. So, when you're looking at what you're going to choose, you need to ask yourself, do I want to homeschool in a traditional sort of way where I want a little room or little area in my house that's set up specifically for homeschooling? Do I want an 8 hour, 6 to 8 hour day? Do I want something that's textbook heavy, or would I prefer the flexibility of an online program? These are questions that you need to know really off rip. That way, once you start looking at curriculums, you can use specific keywords to choose and narrow down what is going to work best for you. So in my case, again, I needed something that was on the go. One thing that we have here in Florida is called FLVS. It is an online virtual program. The problem with that is that my kids actually need to show up and be on camera with a professor. That ain't gonna work for me. Again, I am always on the go. My kids need to be able to take their tablets with them and do homework in the car or on a plane or wherever it is that we are. So that didn't work for me. And had I not known what our goals are, what if I was not clear on what my lifestyle looked like, I almost went through that whole registration until I ran into another homeschooling family, and she was telling me she travels a lot and she was totally tied down this past year because of this specific program. And I said, okay, good to know. So, what am I using? Right now, I'm homeschooling with Mia Academy. I homeschool my 11-year-old, my 7-year-old, and my 5-year-old with Mia Academy. So far, they love it. They do have a trial. I don't know if it's still running, but it's like a 7 to 14-day trial for $1, I think it is. And I just wanted to get my feet wet, see how they liked it. I really love the way that I can either increase their challenge level or decrease it based off of their particular learning style, based off of where they are. And that has been really beneficial, especially because this year I am looking for just a little bit more structure and kind of lighting a fire under my kids' butts because last year was just a wild year for us. So I'm using Mia Academy. I also use Letters from Afar as supplemental work. It is this really cute pen pal kind of situation. I think I paid $36 for the year, and every single month they get a letter from a pen pal in some area of the world. And it has just gorgeous drawings. It's really, really interactive. My kids love it. We do this as a part of our morning routine. That has been great. The other thing that we do is daily grams. That is a workbook, and all it is one pager, super easy, all all grammar work, all punctuation. It's literature essentially. So love that. Very easy for them to do while they're eating breakfast. The next thing that I'm using is Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy lessons. If you've watched any of my other homeschool videos, you know that this is a staple for me. I will be using it all the way up until my next and final child, because even though it is a slower program, it just works. It works. If you follow Kat Von D, she actually also uses it, and many celebrities have been using it for their homeschool children. It's a great book. 20 minutes a day is all you need. And within a couple lessons, your child is reading. Okay. So that's kind of what my homeschool curriculum looks like. Super easy, super low key. A lot of what I do is play based because obviously my boys are still in elementary school. My daughter has her business. And so one thing that was really important for me is to navigate her homeschool in a way that was more motivational for her based off of whatever her interests are. And her interest right now is building her nail tech not program, her nail tech business. So that is what we've been doing. Everything that we do is marketing. It goes back to her, profit and loss and all of those things, all of the budgeting and the money and anything that has to do with business. That's what we're focusing on this year. And it has been working pretty well. So we are interest led, but not solely. And I think this is important when we're talking about homeschooling styles because there are a lot of different ones. There are families that solely homeschool everything online, which is controversial in the homeschool space. I personally don't care. Do what works for you. Then there is unschooling, which is completely interest-led learning. Most unschoolers have like no textbooks, no real curriculum. It's just if your child is interested in dinosaurs, we are only learning about dinosaurs until we move on to the next topic that you're interested in. Okay. And then there's traditional homeschooling, which is that 6 to 8 hour kind of traditional school environment where you have the textbooks and you're the teacher. And it's very much that dynamic. And then there's people like me that are kind of go with the flow, a little bit of both. And it's just what works. So you don't have to be tied into one thing. You kind of just navigate as you see will work best with your family dynamic. I do have a word of advice for you when it comes to curriculums. Do not get married to any one curriculum. The curriculum that you start the year with is probably not going to be the one that you end the year with. And I know that we're talking about money, which of course your budget is something that you want to consider when you're looking at what curriculum you're going to follow through with, but your child will evolve because homeschooling is so intimate and so personal. What you will find is your child will fly through some of this material or become uninterested in the material. And then you will have to turn around and try something else. Alyssa, love that book. I use that to teach my boys to read. I love it too. My daughter learned how to read using Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons by the time that she was like 4. It was incredible. I loved it. I loved it. And it's very affordable. I think the book is like, well, when I bought it, it was like $11. So super affordable. Let's talk about socialization because there's this stigma that homeschool kids can be weird, right? Keeping in mind that that is subjective. But I will say it can be hard for you to find your community. Okay, I've run into some situations where I'm like, yeah, these are not my people. and that's okay. It's all right. There's a lot of trial and error when it comes to finding your community in the homeschooling world. But you have to keep going because finding the right people for yourself, of course, but also for your children is going to be so important in their development. Okay, we're not trying to raise baby Einsteins. We want children that are holistically sound, children that know how to speak, how to communicate, how to engage, right? And that means that you do need to prioritize their socialization. So how exactly do you do this? You could do this through church groups. This is one way to do it. You can enroll them in sports. You can enroll them in the performing arts. Now, I will say that the performing arts, most or all, and I've homeschooled in Georgia and I've homeschooled here in Florida. And in both locations, I've been able to find homeschool scholarships for my kids to be a part of the performing arts programs. So if budget is a concern for you, look up homeschooling scholarships. If not, if there's a program that you're interested in for your children, just ask. It doesn't hurt. There's a lot of organizations out there that do have scholarships available and just do not promote it because they don't want to be overwhelmed with people submitting all kinds of scholarships. It is going to be on an ask basis. And I say this because I used to be a grant writer. So a lot of these you have to solicit for. So you can enroll them in sports, you can enroll them in performing arts, you can enroll them in community centers actually now have PE, science, other kind of, I want to say like interest-led, like clubs kind of thing. So there's like chess and things like that. And again, either low cost, scholarship based, or sometimes even free. There's a lot of government funding that has been given over the past couple of years for homeschoolers because so many parents have been pulling their kids out of school and homeschooling them. So you could do a community center. You can find events or meetups via Facebook groups. One of my favorite is looking at where I live and looking by county, looking by city, and then looking by specific keywords. So for example, moms of 3 or more, right? That homeschool would be a group that I'm a part of. You can look at co-ops. Okay, I'm just going to stop here for just a second. All the kids are weird in 2024. Oh, yo. I wish it was just the kids though. Like here's the thing. My kids are like, they're feral. Like we obviously we were an off-grid family. Like my kids are very outdoorsy. Like they're outdoor kids. Cool. But I have run into some parents that I'm like, I understand. Like I can see the resemblance. Because some parents are just, yeah, weird. And you just kind of have to put yourself in that place of, I'm doing this for the kids. I'm doing this for the kids. But then when the kids come back and they're like, Mom, that kid is weird. You kind of, you have that validation. But let's talk about co-ops for just a second. If you don't know what a co-op is, it is basically a homeschool parent-led group where essentially parents come together and each parent is assigned to either be an assistant or the one that's actually teaching that specific course. So for example, I may come into a co-op and volunteer to teach science. I know nothing about science. Like honestly, I would never do that, but it's an example. And everybody has a position. If you've watched any of my other homeschool videos, you know how I feel about co-ops. I did not have the best experience, but it is an option for you. for a couple of reasons. One, for socializing your children with other families that you know are going to have kids that are within the same age group. The other thing is, if you have a subject that you are not fully confident in, maybe you just either you're not good at it or you have no interest in teaching your child this and you're like, okay, I got to find an alternative. Co-ops are great for this purpose also. And depending on where you're at with the co-op that you're a part of, you may just like the structure of a traditional school. So the co-op that I was a part of, I didn't necessarily love because I was always out of town. I didn't love the fact that I had to sit there, even though I wasn't an assistant or anything. I had to sit there and watch my child be educated, but I couldn't work. I wasn't an assistant. I wasn't the teacher. So I was literally just sitting there for like 6 hours watching my son play with other kids. That was a waste of time for me. So I didn't love the co op experience. I didn't love the uniforms or anything else that was involved in it. But maybe you need that structure and maybe that may work for you. There's a ton of co ops everywhere. Some of them do have a tuition. I think when I left this particular co op, it was like 1,500, which to me, I just couldn't justify that. But I just wanted to share my experience in the case that this is something that you actually wanted, okay? Because one person's experience doesn't mean it's going to be everybody's. So those are some ways that you can socialize your child. Church groups, sports, performing arts, community centers, Facebook groups, and co-ops, okay? Screen time. Let's talk about screen time for just a second because I know this is a very controversial topic as parents, period, but much more if you're a homeschool parent. Because if you choose a primarily online curriculum, your child is going to have more time online. That's just the reality. One way that I have gotten past this is Mia Academy actually has work pages that you could just print out. So these PDFs, I just print them out, and then their practice work, I could either grade them or they can do it all themselves, and then I can upload it or whatever the case is, but they don't have to be on the computer for extended periods of time. I also love how quick the lessons are. So if my kids are on the tablet for 2 hours a day, I feel like that's okay. Versus something like FLVS, for example, you're probably going to have a full course day. Okay, so this is going to look like a traditional school time. So just keep that in mind. As a homeschool family, you may have more screen time than maybe you would like. It's just up to you to really regulate that, to be mindful of it, especially because now your kids have all of this open time available. You want to make sure that you're filling that up in a way that is going to fulfill your goals. I'm not going to tell you in a way that like makes sense for them, but whatever your goal is, just make sure that you're mindful of their screen time. Now we're going to move into educating different age groups. Like I said, have 4 kids, different ages, and here's how I get around this because ain't no one got the time to come up with 20 lesson plans, okay? You teach the same thing at different challenge levels. So going back to the dinosaurs, if I'm teaching on dinosaurs, right, with my sons, I may talk about the different dinosaurs and are they carnivores or herbivores and, all the other like cutesy things, right? Versus with my 11-year-old, I may discuss, how did exactly they go extinct, right? What does that look like? What's the evidence that supports that? What do we do with their fossils? Where have we found fossils? Things like that. Again, same topic, different challenge levels. Yes, I lovingly call my kids heathens. Yes, girl. I call mine little beasts. We're here. So when you're educating different age groups, same topic, different challenge levels, keep it easy, okay? When you're homeschooling, especially as a working mom, the easier you can make this on yourself, the more enjoyable it's going to be. I also want to mention that every year at the end of the year when we're doing our out of the year or end of year interviews, we always have the conversation of you have the choice of going to a regular school if that's what you want to do. I like to give them that option because I want them to feel like they have some sort of autonomy when it comes to their education. I don't want them to think that I am the end all be all and it is whatever I say. And no, you get that choice because tomorrow I want them to be able to say like, No, I chose to be homeschooled just as much as my mom chose it for me. It's a partnership. Homeschooling really is a partnership. And if you can get your kids on board with you, it's just going to be a much more fulfilling and rewarding process. The last topic that I want to cover with you is my top resources. Because again, when I started back in whatever 2014, 2015, it was nothing like it is today. Today, there's so many resources available. There's so many groups. If you are homeschooling by yourself, it's really because you want to be, because you need to put yourself in those rooms. You need to get in contact with the right people. You need to put yourself out there so that you're not homeschooling by yourself. You don't know it all. And there's so many ways to do the same thing that it's to your benefit, honestly. And I say this as somebody that didn't want to find community, didn't want to find any of that. But once I did, I was able to see things and see gaps in my homeschooling process that I hadn't before. So, my recommendation is to go out, find community. Like I said, Facebook groups is one of the best ways to do that. The reason why I don't mention Instagram is because I find Instagram to be overwhelming when it comes to all of the resources that are available, right? It's always, I don't know. I'm not even going to get into it, but it's very overwhelming versus joining a Facebook group where you can filter by your question. You can see what events they have going on. You can ask your question anonymously and no one's going to judge you. And if they do, they don't know who you are. So I really like Facebook groups when it comes to that. Specifically, I love the Working Homeschool Moms Facebook group. That has been really helpful for me in the past 2 years as I've been growing my business and just navigating homeschooling while growing this business and the other businesses that we have. I will also say that all of your favorite museums, like I talked about, your community centers, your just libraries have a ton of programs now available for homeschool families. If you are a homeschool family that's on a budget, this does not need to be expensive for you. You need to do your research. And the number one place that I would start is going to be those libraries, those community centers, again, Facebook groups. A lot of the meetups in my area, at least, are low cost, if not free. Do your research. Okay. The last thing that I would say is go to your county, your education system, see if there's any sort of scholarship. Here in Florida, we do have the Step Up Scholarship. They just opened a separate division for homeschool families. It's a twofold because it does mean that the kids have to take they don't call it a standardized test. They call it something else, but basically a standardized test. And that's how, you're able to get the funds. I believe it's somewhere in the 7,000s range. It is a reimbursement program. So you do have to pay for the actual activity. And that could be sports, that could be clubs, that could be curriculums, all kinds of different things. But again, it takes the weight off of you and it kind of alleviates some of that cost. It also opens up many doors for you to be able to put your kids in different sports that maybe in the past you couldn't have, but now with this reimbursement, you can. I will also say that the reimbursement takes what feels like forever to get to you. So just keep that in mind, but it is a resource that's available. Before I close it out here, do you have any questions? Do you have any comments or anything that you guys wanted to share that are on the live today? Let me see. All right. If we have no questions, I want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your patience. This morning was wild. But I wanted to make sure that I got a live out to you guys today because I didn't get one out last week. I hope that you are enjoying these lives and the opportunity to just come hang out. I appreciate you being here late. I know you have things to do. And yeah, if you're watching the replay and you have any questions, I will get back to you ASAP. Thank you so much for being here and buenas noches, Beast fam. We'll see you on the other side.